Hey, what's up, everybody? BDF44 here with another video. All right, we got something to talk about now. Kevin Durant is going to be re up with the Brooklyn Nets. 4 years, $184 million. They are set. Once you get KD signed on the dotted line at length, you know for a fact you're going to be in position to win a championship each and every one of those years. So congratulations to Brooklyn. Y'all still have yet to win it, but I know for a fact that you're going to keep on knocking. And my Lakers going to be right here knocking that, and we're going to try to see which one of these teams can pull it off, if either. But you guys got four tries at it, so that's going to be pretty cool for y'all. So yeah, that's what I wanted to come here and say. Obviously, what do you want to say about KD? Obviously, there are people who believe that he's the greatest scorer in the history of the sport. I obviously believe that he's in the top three, and I think that's where he is for me right now. But you got to understand, even though there are people above him, I don't know if any of them could score as easily as he could, who are more complete of an offensive threat than he is. And when it's all said and done, he may move past some people who might be ahead of him on my list. So, you got to give credit where credit's due. KD is one of the all-time great legendary basketball players this world has ever seen. And he's won championships to show for it as well. So yeah, that's what I got to say, man. It's just one of those situations where, for me, I'm wondering, okay, is this going to be a situation where we're going to see him start to face father time? The regular conversations that people have when a guy gets to this age. Is this going to be the last major contract? Probably not for a guy like him. Probably not. I could totally see him playing well into his mid to late 30s, and Brooklyn is going to continue to put him in a position to feel good about being there, because James Harden is probably going to be locked up very soon as well to something similar if he isn't already under contract for a very long time. I'm not really sure what his contract looks like, the one that came from Houston, but I'd imagine if there was an extension to be offered, it'll be coming soon. And Kyrie Irving is a whole nother story. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I have an entirely different view on him as it pertains to the Brooklyn Nets and their future. It's a lot more contingent upon how well he plays than a guy like James Harden and KD. Quite frankly, two of the great players that ever played this game. They don't ever have to worry about getting max contracts. They're going to get that off the strength of their names, no matter what. But Kyrie's a bit of a tier below those guys, and I wonder about whether or not he's going to be a part of their future going forward. Will they choose James Harden and KD and just try to keep flexibility to build around them going forward, or will they try to keep a big three with Kyrie or some other player and try to build like they've been building this year? It's hard to do what the Lakers and the Nets and the Warriors were forced to do, building around three players with so limited cap space. It's very difficult to do. Some years you're going to be able to pull it off. Other years it's going to be more difficult. You know what I mean? So I would imagine that a lot of teams feel it's much easier and they can build a more sustainable situation if they're not, dishing out three max contracts at the same time every year. So, we'll see if the Brooklyn Nets leave themselves that kind of wiggle room by moving on from Kyrie at some point within these next couple years, or will they also lock him up? But that doesn't mean anything, because even if a guy gets locked up, he can be traded, especially a guy like Kyrie. He will always have suitors. In my opinion, at this point, it's still up in the air. I would need to see them win a championship and to see the fit work for 82 plus. As I am still of the mindset that Kyrie Irving and James Harden are not the greatest fit. But they do have, obviously, KD there to stabilize that, and they have shown that when they're on the floor together, they've made it work. So we would have to continue to see that before I would want to lock up and say these are the three that I'm rolling with no matter what. Those two, Harden and KD, that's a no-brainer. But Kyrie, I think, is a bit more conditional for me. So that's just my opinion about that. I am kind of surprised that Joe Harris is still on the roster, given that he struggled as much as he did in the playoffs last year. But I think of him as somebody who is still one of the more lethal shooters in all of basketball. And when you consider if they have their full spectrum of players, that's open shots for a great shooter. So even though he struggled last year and his contract's a bit hefty for his production, his value to that team could still be significant with or without the big three, depending on how well he's playing. So I could totally see why they've kept him, but I can also see them moving on from him to create some flexibility, because he's going to be such a coveted player, being in the fact that he's won two 3-point contests in his career, and has obviously been someone who is coveted around the league. So at this point, I think they're going to run with him. Obviously, they don't have any intentions of trading him now, but if for some reason they do decide to lock up all three players, you're going to start looking at him and maybe some other guys around the roster for flexibility if need be. But for now, I don't think the Brooklyn Nets consider themselves having any issues that they can't work out with the big three in place. The question mark for them is going to be the same question mark for the Lakers: defense. Both of these teams are not very good defensively this season. The difference, I would imagine, would be AD, but I guess they can make an argument the same would be for KD. But at this stage in his career, I don't know that KD is the defensive stopper that he was with the Golden State Warriors. And going forward, I would not want to rely upon him and DeAndre Jordan to kind of be the guys that I focus on there defensively. So I would like to see the Brooklyn Nets improve defensively somehow. They could use some players to kind of help them with that. I know they brought in James Johnson. He will be tasked with that. Guy like Claxton is going to be looked to help with that. Bruce Brown is going to be looked to help with that. Alizé, I think his name is Alizé. I'm not certain, but they have a power forward that broke out last year. He's going to be looked at. So it's going to be some guys there that are going to have to just play some team defense because overall they're a bit deficient there, to say the least. Even though a guy like James Harden is much improved defensively, they're still a long way away from being a good defensive team. So that's what I got to say as much as that is concerned. I still have them being the favorites to win the championship, but I do not love their roster unless the big three are absolutely playing up to their capability. We can't have situations where they're not themselves and expecting the role players to elevate their game to get them over the hump to where they need to be. That's not going to work. They don't have the bench for that this year as far as I can tell. Maybe I'm wrong. Bruce Brown could take some steps forward, and he'll help a lot with that if he does. But I just don't look around that roster and say, okay, outside of Kyrie, Harden, and KD, that there's a whole lot of firepower there on either side of the ball. Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, they way past their prime. You look at some of the other players, they lost Jeff Green. I would have re-signed Jeff Green. They bring in Patty Mills, and Patty Mills can be a scoring punch. So they're going to be relying upon him for that. And I think he could be very good for their bench. In fact, I think he's going to help win some games for them, to be honest. Seeing as how injury issues and things of that nature could rear their ugly head, Kyrie Irving, things like that, maybe he takes some time off again. Patty Mills is going to be looked at to kind of do some of the things on the scoring side of the ball. And I think he's more than capable, as he's proven for many, many years. Yeah, man, I like the acquisition of Patty Mills. I think that's my favorite acquisition that they've made in the offseason. And, yeah, man, I just don't look at Brooklyn and say, you know what, this is what I'm thinking about Brooklyn. And only time will tell with the young players that they have behind them, growing in their farm system. But I would say try to not take the route that Golden State has taken in a way, because Golden State, leading up to not having KD anymore that year, throughout the year when they were really, really kicking tail, they weren't really focused on building their young players. They weren't really doing all that. And that's why they fell off so hard when Klay went down and Steph went down and KD left, because they didn't really have a farm system in place to really develop players. They started doing so right after that and have since definitely shown signs of developing very well. In fact, they've been good at it for the last 2-3 years. But prior to and during the years when they were kicking tail, they weren't really focused on developing their young players or getting young players in there that had some upside, stuff like that. They kind of neglected that side of things because they were just winning, and that was that. But I would tell Brooklyn to do the complete opposite. Do the complete opposite. Anything can happen. Make sure that all the kids that you got, and they've been picking up some good kids from what I've seen over the last 2 years or so. They've done some good things. Keep on working on those guys. As you can see, the Lakers continue to develop players, even though they have these superstar guys. You get our Alex Caruso's and players like that who are getting paid, So I would say that even though you're winning, even though you're in a championship caliber situation, always make sure that you're looking for sleepers. Always make sure that you're developing those players in the back of the bench, giving them minutes here and there in the regular season. so that you don't fall off a cliff if anything goes wrong. And that goes for any super team or a team that's winning sustainably from year to year. 1 year championship teams just don't apply to like a Milwaukee. But a team like Golden State, team like the Lakers won many championships in a row, Miami, when they were winning like that, you have to continue to work on developing the players on the back of your bench and valuing the player development overall. So that's my thing with the Nets and all teams, really. Anyway, yeah, congratulations to KD and his family. Of course, this is just another fantastic testament to his greatness. And of course, as I said, the same about Steph Curry. These guys are severely underpaid. No matter how much money you give them, what they're able to do, the excellence that they're able to display at this level, Steph Curry level, KD level, LeBron level, is worth far more than they're being paid. In my opinion, that exceeds to a degree market and things of that nature. When a person is just that excellent, when something is that exquisite in what it does, or that a person is that exquisite in what they do, I just feel like their value skyrockets from anything normal at all altogether. So that's how I look at it, and I'm willing to bet the numbers do tell that story as well for a guy like Steph and a guy like KD. So yeah, man, that's a bargain for any NBA owner. So my name is BDF44. Thank y'all for watching. I'm out.